Well, thank you very much. Thank you, George. And I just would like to start by acknowledging your great work, George. I think you are an incredible environmentalist and campaigner. I've admired you for many years, and I think your book, Regenerative, the first half of which I fully agree with, is a brilliant critique of what is wrong with industrial farming, including livestock. So there is so much we share. And for me, it's very disappointing that there's such a polarization of our views over the role of livestock in sustainable farming systems, because I agree with you that the livestock systems that predominate all over the world at the moment are definitely part of the problem. But rather than trade statistics with you, which we could do, and no doubt we will do when I've had my 6 minutes and there's a bit of a, back and forward, I want to talk about my own practical experience. And because I think that one of the reasons why I think you doubt the capacity of farming to transform in a way which will have livestock really at the center of the sustainable food systems, which replace the ones that we've got at the moment, is because you're not a practitioner. I am a practitioner. I'm within a month of celebrating our 50th anniversary here on this 300-acre, mainly livestock farm. You know that we've grown vegetables along the road, and we were just talking about it. We used to be a carrot producer for supermarkets. We had to stop because the system got too centralized. And I've just been out today ridging up my potatoes. So I'm definitely a vegetable grower. But the main use of the land on this farm is for producing livestock. We have now a 90-cow Ayrshire herd and followers. And we produce cheese, as Alice just said. And what is really interesting about our farm, after 50 years of not using any nitrogen fertilizer and farming in harmony with nature, is the impacts. The first of which I want to focus on a little bit, which is carbon. We just had a carbon audit, and it looks as though, if you believe the data, that we are actually carbon negative. In other words, the soil building in the permanent pasture and the rotations, because we do grow some oats and peas to feed our cows, looks as if it not only offsets the methane emission of the cows, but also the energy that we use on the farm. So we are net carbon negative. Now, obviously, this is just one farm, and I also want to speak about the nature impacts. You said that if we took more land out of production if we carried on, if we went to my system at scale, it would have devastating impacts because we'd have to have more land in production. Well, if you farm in harmony with nature, you have fantastic biodiversity outcomes. Our farm is alive with birds, small mammals, insects, amphibians, all because we're not farming in a hostile way, and the wildlife can coexist with the system. We also employ around 7 full-time equivalent labor units on the farm. And so if you take it together, we are producing a lot of food. We're producing enough cheese to feed 3,000 people. The milk we sell could feed another 2,500. And the meat, which comes either from the dairy cows at the end of their lives or the male calves, can feed another 500. Now, you might say this is just one farm. And what did you say? You said we're living in a state of delusion. Well, I plead guilty. I am in the state of delusion. After 50 years, I'm convinced that my farming system could go to scale. And if you don't believe me, we did a report which we published just recently called Feeding Britain from the Ground Up, where we modeled a nationwide transition of farming to sustainable farming systems operating within planetary boundaries, the sort of farming I'm doing here. And we looked at the impact on total food output. And the fascinating conclusions are that we could maintain and maybe even slightly increase our national level of food security in our staple foods if we switched to farming systems like the one we are using here. And if we scale that globally, yes, we could feed the world, but only if we ate differently. Here's some areas where we agree. We'd give up all industrial livestock farming, no more cheap chicken, no more horrible pork from industrial pork units or mega dairies. You mentioned there are mega dairies near this farm in Ceredigion. But if we if we gave up eating meat, it would be a problem, because the farming systems that need to replace the ones we've got at the moment would rely on a rotation, 50% of which at any one time would be in fertility building, and that would normally be clover and grass. And to maximize the food output from that system, and actually I would say to revitalize the soil, we need livestock, grazing livestock, yes, mainly grass-fed, not exclusively grass-fed in a dairy system, but certainly with beef and lamb production, more or less 100% grass-fed. And if we did that, we'd actually have quite a lot of meat to eat, far more than most people think. What we have to give up is the cheap chicken that everybody's become used to.